Hey guys, today's episode is sponsored by Ladder. It's a great company. They are founded by LeBron James and Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I mean, that already makes some pretty awesome company in my book. Uh, but also, this company, like when they made it because LeBron James had some cramping during his first finals, and so he wanted to make like a just better supplements out there that are just cleaner, and so they brought together like some top scientists to make just a cleaner protein for LeBron to actually use himself. And they thought this was a great idea, so they made a company out of this. He worked with Arnold with this, and the great thing about them is they do third party testing, which no other company out there does. So they have third party tests to make sure that all these proteins are clean and are gonna be like a standard. You're not gonna get like mixed results from these things like you do with a lot of other ones. I'm a little bit older myself. I know I look young on the camera. So like when I'm working out, like I get sore. So I love this company because I use them myself. After I work out, I take this. It helps me recover faster, get back into the gym. Just a great company. They help you just unlock the best in yourself. And they got like, I'm getting ready to go to the gym right now, so I got my shaker right here from that you could buy from Ladder. Just awesome company. Use the promo code Better Every Day, all one word, and you could get 30% off on anything on their website. They also have hydration stuff. I like using that when I'm actually at the gym. Just a great company overall, guys. Like I wouldn't be talking about them if I didn't like the company myself, and I wouldn't recommend it to you guys. Highly recommended. Check them out. Let me know what you think after you get from there in the comments below. I also have a link to their website below in the description of this video. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let's get to some football now.
What's up? It's Alexander Madison, running back from the Minnesota Vikings, and you're watching Clock Management.
Knocked down. Oh, he caught it! Oh, unbelievable! This is amazing. So you played in the NFL. What's longer, a half or 5/8? Or 5/8 is a little longer there, Joe.
Your team is now on the clock.
Welcome, everybody. It is the 18th of April, 2020. I'm your host, Justin. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Perry.
What's up, Justin? I was wondering, are you made out of grapes?
No.
That's weird because you're as fine as wine, my friend.
I thought that's where this was going. I was like, I'm not sure though. Let me see. Let me see where this is going. But
Come on,
Thank you.
Yeah, don't analyze it. Just enjoy it.
I was over analyzing it. In fact, I was like, aged like a fine wine. I'm like, where's he going with this?
It's like an R&B song. You don't think about it. You just
just
let it wash over you.
Right. It might be corny. But you just let it happen and you enjoy it.
Yep. Yeah. I love a good corny R&B song.
Yeah. Like back in the day, I mean, probably a horrible example, but back in the day, R. Kelly was like a huge R&B singer, popularity wise. I never liked him, just for the record. But like you listen to like the words of his songs, I'm like, it's so like just corny and horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, everyone should hate R. Kelly, so I figured that's a good example now.
All right, that's the show.
Yep, and we're wrapping. No, we're actually going to be talking about quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, we are covering our top 10 quarterbacks, fantasy quarterbacks. I think there's definitely a difference between a good NFL quarterback and a good fantasy quarterback. Sometimes those lines intersect. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah, and sometimes a horrible quarterback can be an amazing fantasy quarterback.
Right.
James.
Justin, where can everyone find us before we get started?
That's true. Well, you could find us on YouTube. If you subscribe and leave a comment, you could be entered to win an autographed Kareem Hunt jersey. So that's awesome. But then you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, anywhere where you listen to podcasts. We're there, and we're waiting for you.
We're waiting.
Yeah.
Open arms.
And then we have all forms of social media if you want to interact with us more. You can get on there, and in between episodes, if you have a question, hit us up.
And if people are tired of always having to explain and show what the best podcast in the world is, and they just want it to be on their clothes, where can they find something like that?
There's a link directly below here that will take you. It simply just says merch and then a link to merch. It's awesome.
That's easy. That's easy.
You just click it and then you click that buy button.
Listen, guys, I know everybody's stuck inside right now, or stuck at their house technically, but you are allowed to go outside. You are allowed to go in your yard and enjoy the sunshine that we've been having. And there's some wonderful tanks on that merch site that have clock management all over it. Sun's out, guns out. All right. It's not an option. It's a law. Let's go.
I'm throwing one of these tanks on. I got some more beer from my buddy over at Cross Arrows Breweries company, and I am going to get in a lawn chair out in my backyard and just lay out in the sun with some beer. It's gonna be great.
What an afternoon that would make. You know, you got clock management playing, right? You're just relaxing in the sun in a clock management tank, enjoying a beer from Crossed Arrows Brewery. I have no shame when it comes to self-promotion.
Yeah, and we even threw one in there for a buddy of ours. So
I know this is, promote. That's it.
But honestly, even if you take away the brand names, that's just a fantastic afternoon.
That sounds pretty all right. Sounds pretty all right. So we're going to cover top 10 fantasy quarterbacks. Justin and I each have a little list here. I think they both vary a little bit from the current consensus rankings.
For sure.
Not a ton, right? But
definitely a couple of them that I know I have different, and I'm sure that ours probably aren't the exact same either, which quarterbacks are very, very like volatile once you get to the back half of that top 10.
Super fickle. It's super fickle. It's super volatile is a great word for it. You have no idea really if that guy that you spend a third round, second round pick on is actually going to be worth that. Most of the times he's not, right? So we can talk a little bit about that. I mean, we bring it up all the time, but first we got just a few pieces of news to cover. Not a whole lot going on right now. We're waiting for that draft. Justin, you had a little bit of news about what's going on today with the draft.
Oh, yeah. Today, so the NFL teams are actually doing basically a mock draft. They're doing their, practicing the virtual draft that they're going to be doing. But instead of putting players on there, so that way teams aren't drafting players, and then you get breaking news like, the Dolphins drafted a kicker in the first round instead of whoever, this quarterback. So instead of that, they just put a whole bunch of Hall of Famers in the draft. And so they're all going to draft all the Hall of Famers. Should be a pretty interesting thing. I still would like to see who they pick.
Yeah. I think
do the Bengals take Boomer Esiason with the first overall pick? Yeah. I gotta know.
I think it's really fun, all the creative things that are coming out of the current quarantine, right? People are getting really creative at how they're entertaining themselves and also creating content and sharing things. It's been pretty fun. John Krasinski, who plays Jim on The Office, if you didn't know, hosted a virtual prom for 2020 high school graduates because they're not getting to go to their prom, right? So he hosted one online where he DJ'd for it and everything. It was pretty cool. I mean, come on. Yeah. There's worse ways.
I mean, what makes it cool though is that he did it. If I were to do that, it would just be sad. Yeah,
that would be weird.
Yeah,
it'd be weird. Yeah, don't.
Yeah, you know what I mean. That's my point. You guys don't try that at home. It's cool that he did it. Just don't try it.
Exactly. It's kind of like Bear Grylls. All right. It's cool that he drinks his own pee. You don't need to do it.
Right. Yeah. He does it. He has a TV show. We get it. But if you do it, you're weird.
Yeah. Super weird. Okay. Something that's not weird at all is Christian McCaffrey's 4-year extension with the Panthers. He'll earn $16 million annually. It's $64 million total. Yeah, I mean, expected, right? Nothing surprising there. I'm glad they locked him down. We're not going to have these weird, will he sign? Will they sign him? thing, hold out or anything. We know now that we have Christian McCaffrey for an extended 4 years after this year. So
and a huge contract, great for him. But this is kind of the thing we talked about with teams. Like, hopefully he stays healthy for his sake, and obviously, and also for the team's sake with this big contract. Because, like, let's say, something like with what Todd Gurley happens, this team is screwed.
Right. He is the highest paid running back in NFL history now. Expected, right? And then the next guy that gets one will be the highest paid running back in NFL history, probably Saquon Barkley. It's how it happens, right? So I kind of hate that like little thing that they tag on every time somebody gets some huge deal, is like highest paid in NFL history. It's like it doesn't even matter anymore, because the
salary cap goes up every year, which means every year the next big person signed is going to be.
And the player will include that he wants to be the highest paid player.
Oh, that drives me crazy.
In the demand, right? He's like, I want Zeke. 1 million more than him.
Yeah.
I want one more.
I
than
will
him.
not drop lower than this number because I need to be the highest paid of all time.
Right. Whatever. It's not whatever. Okay, moving on. Odell Beckham Jr. This is really weird right here. Not weird. I think I saw this coming a little bit, or I expected it to come, but then when it hadn't happened for months now, I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not going to happen. Odell Beckham Jr. reportedly will be moved by the Browns eventually. So
I don't believe this report, and this is why. So I think this is a byproduct because Jay Glazer sent out, he put out a news story that turned out to be a fake news story about Odell Beckham being traded to, I think it was the Vikings. Yeah. And I think this just kind of something that's happened over time from that story. Like, oh, well, it's not to the Vikings, but they are trying to trade him. Because, I think Odell Beckham is a player that makes it very apparent when he wants to be traded. And he hasn't made much noise, like you said. I was kind of surprised that he hadn't.
I don't think he wants to be traded. I think the Browns kind of want to trade him. I think that's actually what's going on now.
The GM said he didn't, though, this week.
But the GM has to say that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I think when stuff like this comes out, I think that there is some error to truth behind it, right? I don't necessarily mean that there's a guarantee that Odell Beckham's traded.
Yeah, that's my point. Was I do believe, I think there's some truth to this, and I think they may be putting this in the air to field offers, to send us some offers, and let's see what we could get.
I think it's really hard to figure out what you can get for a player without it coming out in the open, right? That you're trying to see what you can get, right? They probably, hey, we're fine keeping Odell Beckham Jr., right? That's probably in their mind, but they're also like, we're paying him a lot. We're paying
Jarvis Landry to be the number one wide receiver.
Yeah, we're paying a lot of people a lot right now. We just went and signed Austin Hooper. We might be able to get something nice and juicy right now for Odell Beckham Jr., who we probably don't need, right? Odell Beckham Jr. being on that team last year probably had very little effect to where their record turned out, right? So they're probably thinking, hey, we can win or do just as well or better than we did last year without him. Let's see what we can go get. And
I gotta say, if they do trade him, I'm loving me some Landry this year.
Yes, and depending on where Odell Beckham lands, it might move him up the board for me.
I think almost no matter where he lands, I like it.
Yeah. Green Bay. I've been saying
the only place I could think of where I wouldn't like it is Tampa Bay.
I agree. Tampa Bay would be really bad, but if he went to the Packers, man,
yeah, that would be amazing.
The Packers need a second wide receiver, and it doesn't have to be as good as Odell Beckham is, but if that receiver was, it would be amazing. So, it's interesting. It could be fun to see how that works out. I think, honestly, that the Browns would be a little less dysfunctional if Odell Beckham wasn't there. Not because he's causing any real drama there. I think he was really well behaved last season, considering how rough the team was struggling. But I think that there are too many mouths to feed there. I know that that's like a dead meme that gets brought up all the time.
But then they brought in another mouth to feed.
Right. I think it's true, right? There's no real focus to that team on this is how we want to win games. is it Nick Chubb? Is it Jarvis Landry? Is it Odell Beckham? Is it Austin
Is it
Hooper? Is it Kareem Hunt? Right? Is it Baker Mayfield? It's like we don't know how they don't know how they want to win. They just went out and got a bunch of talent, and then they don't know how to direct it. So I think that maybe they need to trim the fat and get in a lane and stay in that lane. But
For sure.
I don't know. I'm not an NFL GM. Last piece of news. Last piece of news. OJ Howard reportedly being shopped by the Buccaneers. This is kind of surprising to me when I heard this.
And because I think that he's a great fit for Tom Brady. Now I do think that maybe it's a Bruce Arians thing because he doesn't like throwing to the tight end, and he's maybe thinking, oh, maybe we could get a better, trade him. They have Cameron Brate there. Trade him away and get a defensive player or something else from a draft pick, whatever, since they're not going to be utilizing him and they could get more value out of what they get for him. But, I mean, Tom Brady obviously loves the tight end position.
Right, but Tom Brady doesn't need O.J. Howard to have a good tight end. Does that make sense?
No, but we have seen Tom Brady.
No, it doesn't make sense.
No, it does. No, it does make sense. But we have seen what Tom Brady could do with two good tight ends.
Right. I think I kind of fall in the camp that yes, Gronk was and is great, but I think that Tom Brady brought him from a good tight end to a great tight end.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I would love to see that happen with O.J. Howard.
Yeah, but I don't know if O.J. Howard, I mean, he has to be able to catch the ball. No matter how good his quarterback is, he has to be able to put hands on the ball.
If anyone could teach him or help him with that, it's going to be Tom Brady.
Maybe.
If there's hope, I'm saying. That's the person to help him.
It could be that O.J. Howard's too expensive for what they got out of him last season, and they're just
he definitely is. But I mean, it's whether you think he's going to produce at that level or take or increase his productivity. Obviously, So I'm more in the camp that he's going to do better.
I mean, I think that's a given, right? I think that's
some people don't think so. I was kind of surprised by this.
I mean, I don't know if I fall into the camp that he's going to be great. I don't know if he's going to be a top 5 tight end. I think people are kind of jumping the gun there, but
but a top 10.
He had 459 yards 34 receptions for 459 yards last season and 1 touchdown. It would be very difficult for O.J. Howard not to do better. And to be clear, 50 receptions for 700 yards would be a lot better.
Yeah.
So,
and it would probably put him in the top 10 for tight ends at those numbers.
Depending on the touchdown number, which is really hard to predict. But
with those numbers, I would assume he's probably getting 4 touchdowns though, which he should have had more from the numbers he had. But
if O.J. Howard moves, it doesn't really change anything for the players in the Bucs for me all that much. I still like Tom Brady to be fairly good. Probably not quite top 10, but
I mean, we'll find out here shortly,
15,
right?
But yeah. All right. News nobody cares about, Justin.
Before we get into news nobody cares about, I got another piece of news that I was going to touch on. The Dolphins tried to fly Tua out to Miami right before the whole quarantine thing happened. And then they weren't able to get him out there in time. So due to that, there's rumors that they've taken him off of their draft board and replaced him with Herbert. I mean, it's just rumors, so take it with a grain of salt. But those talks are out there.
This is a really good draft class for quarterback. I think that Justin Herbert would be getting a lot of buzz right now. A lot of buzz.
Yeah, if those other 2 quarterbacks were
if the other 2 weren't on there. So honestly, they might be thinking would you be surprised, Justin, if in 3 years Justin Herbert has had a successful start to his NFL career and Tua's not playing? Right? It's totally possible.
Yeah, throwback to RG3.
Exactly.
Yeah, not at all. I mean,
so they probably know more than we do. They definitely know more than we do what's going on with these players as individuals, when it comes to injuries, whatever.
For sure.
And they might see something in Justin Herbert that they like more than Tua. So
and that brings me to the news no one cares about, Perry. Perfect segue, because the Dolphins GM said that both Herbert and Tua are really talented. That's a direct quote. You can take that to the bank.
The gentleman is not wrong.
Yeah, like, of course there will, but nobody is doubting that. Like, why is that? Why is this a thing?
You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that every player drafted in that first round is talented.
Right.
Don't shoot the messenger, okay? I don't want
to. Yeah, what a hot take from the Dolphins GM, you know? Oh, my God, groundbreaking. Good thing this was a headline, ESPN. Yeah. Thank you.
You know, they may call me an extremist, but whoever's drafted by Denver is extremely talented.
And then I'm going to go back to what news no one cares about. Another piece of news that you covered this related to. So Alvin Kamara was playing, live streaming, playing Call of Duty last week. Mm-hmm. And during this, and his friends, he heard the news, or his friend heard the news about CMC getting signed. So then obviously they're like, what do you think about that? And he's like, what did he, I think he said, like, give me the bag or something like that. Can't wait for my contract, get the bag. And then he's like, oh, and it's really good for Christian.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
The next guy is the highest paid ever.
Yeah. He's like, nice, now I get more money.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Crazy.
Yeah, and then
wouldn't that be crazy if, like, when you went to a job you were going to be doing the same job as somebody else there? Like, I went to my new job and it was like, hey, how much does the other brewer make? And he's like, oh, well, he makes this much per hour. And it's like, I want $1 more per hour than him. And then when I sign it, I'm like, I am now the highest paid brewer in this company's history. And that was just the norm. That's just how it worked.
Yeah. I wish it worked that way.
Right? I'd be constantly moving jobs.
Right? So Lamar Jackson got a tattoo this week. Well, he got it before quarantine, but he unveiled it this week. Did you see it?
No, I did not.
It's a huge chess piece. At the top, it says family, and then it has like a little mural looking thing. And then at the bottom, it says Big Truz, Truzzz. We've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time. We've been spelling it wrong. It's Truz, Truzzz.
I don't understand.
That's what's
Who's
the running?
Big Truz?
That's him. What's the running back there? Mark Ingram was calling him that Big Truss during interviews and stuff last season. That was his nickname for him. But apparently now it's spelled with Z's and tattooed on Lamar Jackson's.
So it was Big Trust?
No. Before it was spelled Truss, but I believe it was just him, like, basically Big Trust. But he just said it this way.
Oh.
I can't believe you missed this.
Am I way too old to understand this?
I'm older than you. I feel like you should understand this. Yes. But there's a bunch of memes going around. It's great with the what's that movie where the guy got was it respect tattooed but he spelled it wrong?
Yeah. I don't know the movie, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a bunch of memes of that.
I like the no regrets.
That's what it was. Yeah, no regrets. But there's a bunch of memes of it, and because it's right in the same lettering and in the same spot.
We all make choices.
I still love you, Lamar. You're still gonna, win me some championship sometime. Well, not this year. I'm not drafting you, but
you might land in my top 10, Lamar.
Yeah, we'll see what we could do.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say Lamar Jackson's talented.
Yeah, I'm going to go on a limb and say he will be the highest paid quarterback of all time at some point.
Wow. That limb might just snap. I don't know, buddy.
Oh, God. I hope his limbs don't snap.
Oh, God. All right. What else?
Last piece of news no one cares about. Brett Favre. Oh, no. I got one more after this I forgot to put on here, but I just remembered it.
Boy.
Brett Favre dyes his hair orange and makes TikTok videos. I'm not sure which part of this sentence is more upsetting to me. Brett Favre is making TikTok videos, or that he dyed his hair orange. Like,
I have never made a TikTok video. I don't have TikTok. I don't go on TikTok. But I see TikTok is pretty cringy. There are a lot of TikTok cringe compilations on Reddit and YouTube. Those are pretty good.
Yeah,
if you watch those, they're so cringy. It's like watching The Office.
I believe it. But I mean, if you guys are on TikTok, you could go follow Clock Management on that being said.
Oh my god!
But
I didn't know we were on TikTok.
Yeah, it's basically a compilation of our Instagram posts put to music. Basically, every like 2 or 3 weeks, I take all the Instagram posts and put music to them and throw them up on TikTok. So if you're on there, you can follow those. Yeah, I mean it's just there. It exists. I think we have like 15 followers on there.
Oh god.
But yeah, go follow us on there, guys. It's super cool.
No, it's great. There's a lot of great stuff on there, a lot of great content from Clock Management on
really only us.
TikTok.
There is like really
when we talk about
stuff.
the best sites in the world to get your information, it's all about TikTok right now.
Please do not take that seriously. So last piece of news no one cares about though. I could not exclude this one. Joe Buck got offered $1 million to do live commentary of adult live
adult websites.
Entertainment on the website. Yeah. And Joe said, and this is a quote from him, depending on the site, they could just be handing some of my money back to me. So I'll hold out for a better offer and try to hold on to my day job. But I have to say, I'm flattered.
Gross.
So, first of all,
really gross.
Who wants that? Who wants to hear Joe Buck's voice? Second of all, like
I didn't even think about that part.
Yeah, right.
I didn't even think about that part.
Then it's like, who's offering him $1 million for this? Like, this is ridiculous. And then the whole thing about him saying he'd just be getting his money back, gross.
Joe.
And then like you have a contract with like a company that's like a brand, and you're gonna say that? Like, it's so crazy to me. I wouldn't say something like that. And we have a very a slightly smaller brand than like an NBC or CBS, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's get to some football.
Let's get to it. There's probably a drop here. That was the drop.
Perfect. Nailed it.
Patented.
I'm definitely going to silence that and put something over it, though.
I should stand up and do like air guitar. Anyways, like this is the most off the rails show. We've just become more and more distracted every week, Justin. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's just us being comfortable.
Yeah, I'm cozy right now.
Yeah, I'm chilling.
I got my shoes off, man.
I finished my
We're
coffee.
Good. Relaxed. Yeah, drinking out of my Jurassic Park mug. It's one of my favorites.
I got my Star Wars one, and then I got some sweet banana chips here. Shout out banana chips.
Yeah, don't eat those while we're recording, though, please.
No, I'm not. Yeah, they're super loud, I'm sure.
They're so loud. All right.
Yeah, so but football.
top 10 fantasy quarterbacks. Let's just jump right into it. I'll start off with my number one. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is it okay if I go first?
Yeah. I'm interested.
So my number one, I think, should be everybody's number one. And I think that the guy
I think there's an argument for number 1 and 2 going either way.
Okay, well, my number one is Patrick Mahomes.
So is mine.
Okay, yeah. So I think that Pat Mahomes isn't getting the respect he deserves,
which is crazy to say.
Right. He still had a very good season last season. There was the injury, right? So he missed some time. So the numbers don't look as robust as 2018, but his game is far more conducive to a long, successful career in the NFL than Lamar Jackson. I fear that Lamar Jackson can be schemed against too easily. You see it happen time and time again, right? These guys that do it really, really well with their legs for one season tend to see a huge drop off in the next 2 to 3 seasons. You look at people like Cam Newton after his MVP season, right? There, you could count injuries for that. You could count teams scheming against him for that. You could just count him getting older for that, right? So I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to have a huge drop off and disappear. Don't get me wrong. But I think that if we're expecting him to break rushing records every season, as well as lead the NFL in passing touchdowns, it's just not going to happen. I just don't see it happening. And I think the Chiefs are a much better team than the Ravens were. I think the Ravens were kind of carried by Lamar Jackson last season, and I don't think that's going to happen again.
I mean, I'm sure it will. Just I don't expect him to have the season he had last year.
Right.
Like, there's a reason why this is a record. Like, it doesn't happen every year.
Exactly. We said the same thing with Patrick Mahomes, and after 2018, right? It's like, hey, record-breaking seasons don't happen every season. That's kind of why they're record-breaking. So you should expect some regression. We saw that even when he was on the field, right? The injury did not. I mean, if he played the entire season, there would still have been a regression from 2018. But I think that his offensive weapons are better. I think that he's a better arm talent. I think that he's a better decision maker as a quarterback. I think he has a better coach. I think that Patrick Mahomes will have a better fantasy season than Lamar Jackson. And I don't think it's going to be all that close. I think that it'll be pretty set that, yeah, Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL.
No, I completely agree with you. I think he's going to be the clear number one by the end of the season. Jackson will see some regression. But I still think that Jackson, obviously, great quarterback. I have him as my number 2, which I'm probably guessing you do.
I actually don't.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's super, super, super close.
Yeah, so I have him as my number 2 quarterback. As much as we're just talking about regression, blah, 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 he still has that super high floor from his rushing ability, which you're going to get more points for rushing yards than you are for throwing yards if you're new to fantasy football. So he's going to get more fantasy points based off that. And then he is not just a running back, apparently. He showed us last year. He can throw the ball. They do have a good team around him. Not the same team as Kansas City. Lesser team for sure, but they got some great key pieces set there for him. So I do think that he's going to do just fine. Don't be scared about Lamar Jackson, but also I'm probably not having either of these guys just because I'm probably not drafting a quarterback before round 5. That's where I'd probably consider these two, and they'll be gone well before then.
So before I tell you who my number 2 is, I will say that Lamar Jackson is my number 3. It was very, very, very close between these two. It was almost like a coin flip, but I had to go with my gut, right? I didn't want to lie to myself on how I actually felt about where these guys should land. I agree with everything. I think his floor is extremely high because of the rushing, right? That's why Tyrod Taylor was such a fantasy relevant quarterback for what, 2 to 3 years, because he rushed the ball every game for 40 to 50 yards, and that's just easy points. Lamar Jackson is far better than Tyrod Taylor. So if this one in particular between 2 and 3 is the one I'm most prepared to be wrong on, but I think I'm going to be right. So my number 2 is actually Russell Wilson. I'm really high on Russell Wilson this year, clearly. I think that DK Metcalf, as do you, is going to be very good in 2020. I think that DK Metcalf is going to be the number 1 receiver there without Tyler Lockett losing all that much production. Yeah. I think Tyler Lockett is still going to be good, and Tyler Lockett is still going to be fantasy relevant, but he's going to be the second best wide receiver on that team behind DK Metcalf by the end of the season. I think their rushing game is incredible. I think their offensive line is getting much better. And I think Russell Wilson, with time to throw the ball, is extremely dangerous. He was the number 1 quarterback to start the 2019 season, and I don't see why he can't pick up that pace and continue somewhere around that pace going into 2020. So I have Russell Wilson at 2 with Lamar Jackson. I guess I would call him a 2B. But,
yeah, so I actually have Russ as my number 3, which I
Okay.
mean makes sense.
Yeah.
And just to add on that, I think that Seattle's defense is no longer at that elite level that it once was, and I think it has taken a step backwards,
Right.
which is great for fantasy because it means that they're
Right.
going to need to put up more points to win games or stay competitive. So you're going to have Russell Wilson throwing the ball more. You're going to have more just offense in general.
Yeah.
They won't be trying to just run the clock down.
They can run the ball really well, which means they can play action really well. And Russell Wilson might be the best quarterback in the NFL to play action.
Yeah, because that means he has, on average, probably 30 seconds to throw the ball. Or at least it feels like it.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, he has more time to throw the ball than any other quarterback in the NFL because of his mobility. It's ridiculous. So that's why people talk a lot about, I mean, I know we're not talking wide receivers right now, but this kind of goes hand in hand. People talk a lot about, oh, DK can't run a route, run routes and do a full route tree, whatever. Well, that doesn't matter when the quarterback is running around for, 10, 15 seconds beyond the line of scrimmage because the play is broken down at that point. There's no route to be ran. You're just getting open. And he's great at that. DK is amazing at that. So
is Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, both of them.
They're both very good. They're both such good fits for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and he I mean, we all knew Lockett was, and then we just saw DK just like with that connection he built with Russell so quickly. So I completely on board both them being awesome this year, and because of that, you're gonna have Russell Wilson just thrive.
Yeah, he should be great this season. And don't get me wrong, right? Lamar Jackson will also be great this season, right? If I had the number 3 quarterback, I had Lamar Jackson. And he turned out to be the number 3 quarterback, but it was by like 12 fantasy points by the end of the season. I'm not going to be upset, right? Which is kind of how minuscule that division is between the two that I have.
Yeah, and
so
I probably won't I did notes on every player except these 3 just because these 3 I can talk about no problem. I don't really I know I've looked at these so in depth already multiple times. It's just easy to do. This is the top tier for me. These 3.
Okay, well, who's your number 4 then?
Oh, okay. So I thought I was ahead of the power curve, pushing this guy too hard. Apparently I'm not. I have him ranked lower than some people, some of the experts even, and that's Cuyler Murray. He was my number 5 until after that trade happened and they brought in Hopkins over there. I love Cuyler Murray. Towards the back end of last year, he started just looking like a great NFL quarterback. He threw outside of the pocket more than any other quarterback in the NFL last year. He was not very efficient in that, though. A lot of dropped passes and just incompletions. Now, what makes this awesome is DeAndre Hopkins is also he's the best receiver in that exact scenario at catching a ball and getting open. So now you put the 2 of these guys together and you should see some great production. Also, DeAndre Hopkins is just an amazing wide receiver, which they needed on that team. So I think this is it's beneficial for Cuyler. It's kind of a downgrade for Hopkins, but I mean, he'll still be it's still Hopkins. He's still gonna eat, and he's got a great quarterback still. I don't think Cuyler is as good of a quarterback as Watson, but I have him ranked over him for fantasy because he's gonna get more rushing yards than Watson, and he has his wide receiver 1 now.
This one. I almost talked myself out of Cuyler here, but Cuyler is also my number 4. I almost talked myself out of it, but I thought about it a little bit, and I'll go over that when I talk about a couple other guys here. But Cuyler Murray finished the season last season with 3,700 passing yards. 20 passing touchdowns, 544 rushing yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns. The only number there that I don't see going up all that much is probably the passing yards. I think the rushing yards will increase. I think the rushing touchdowns will increase. I think the passing touchdowns will increase. I honestly think that Cuyler Murray could see something similar to what we saw with Lamar Jackson in his second season. Not record-setting insane things. I don't want to predict that. That's not what this show's about. But I think that we'll see that kind of step forward for Cuyler Murray. We saw that happen throughout the season last season. I know that there were a few games there towards the end where he kind of underperformed to what he was doing for, like, say, the first 2/3 of the season. But he also was playing teams like a defense in Cleveland, who is it's a good defense. I mean, believe it or not, Cleveland is a pretty decent defense. And at home in Seattle, or away at Seattle, which is a tough place to play for anybody, let alone a rookie quarterback. So I think with Hopkins going there, and a full offseason for Cuyler Murray, a full season to look back on, look at his mistakes, see where he needs to improve, it's only going to get better for Cuyler Murray. I think that he's probably going to land closer to like 700 rushing yards, which would be incredible. Probably like 7 rushing touchdowns, 25 passing touchdowns. He's going to look very, very, very good. And as these other guys start to creep higher up in the draft, Kyler's falling a little bit in the draft. We might be able to grab him in like the 6th or 7th round. If he falls there, that might be a little.
I've seen. I have done a few drafts with other people, like not just using computer, players. And he's fallen. He's fallen to there in some of them. Some of them he's taken before the Russell Wilson though. So
right. So
it just depends. You got to know your league.
Right. Don't reach up for a quarterback ever is like a rule for me. Unless you're trying to like complete a stack and you're reaching like a quarterback that you could get in the 12th, you reach to grab him in the 10th, right? That's okay with me, right? You're like, that's roster construction.
Not a lot of value lost there.
Right.
At that point, you're taking shots on players that are boom or bust type.
If you can get a quarterback in the 7th and you reach up to the 4th or 5th to grab him, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. And don't do that with Cuyler either. But I do think that Kyler's going to be very good this season, better than last season. The guy that I've struggled a lot here with these 3, right? The guy that I thought that I wanted to put at 4 actually is going to move down to 6. And wow. The guy that I'm actually going to put at 5 is Deshaun Watson.
That's why I also have Deshaun Watson as my number 5. So.
Okay, cool. So Deshaun Watson, this is a guy that I might be targeting in a lot of drafts because the value of him is so good right now, because a lot of people think that he's going to be terrible because DeAndre Hopkins left.
I know, it blows my mind. He's still a good quarterback.
Right. So Deshaun Watson had 413 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns last season with 3,800 yards passing and 26 passing touchdowns, and he missed the final game of the season. And Deshaun Watson is very good.
And they did bring in Brandon Cooks there, who is he's a good receiver. Like, I mean, he has some injury issues, but he's a solid receiver when it comes down to it. And they have lots of receivers there.
And they've been able to establish a legitimate running game. The Texans have. I really think that Deshaun Watson is going to have a pretty good season again. Yeah. I don't think that he's going to have like vast improvements off of last season, but he could have a very similar season to 2019. And that would make him a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm really not that scared of Deshaun Watson because I can get him so late now.
And then I'm assuming your number 6 is probably the same guy I got here, which is Dak.
Yeah.
So Dak, I will probably vary a lot more at this on the back end of this, but Dak, I'm slightly lower like on Dak than a lot of these other experts. A lot of people have him like 1 or 2 ranks higher than this. And I'm lower on Dak because they have a whole new coaching staff there. Not necessarily a bad thing. The last coaching staff, like for wins, I think they're going to win more games than they did last year. But they were also playing from behind a lot. Dak threw for 5,000 yards last year. Like, that's ridiculous. And you have to see some regression. 30 touchdowns. I don't think he's throwing 30 touchdowns again. So I think you are going to see some regression from him. And there's just no way with that regression I could put him above Watson or anyone else on that's above him. So that's why I have him where he is. He's still going to be a good fantasy quarterback, but I advise people to steer away from him just because you could get Watson after Dak goes off the board.
Yeah, all of that is true. And I think that we're going to have a little bit of a Rams situation happen here where they overpay. Yeah, they overpay to like 3 players, and then they can't afford to build a team around Dak. And I think Dak's talented, but there's not a player in this league that can carry a team just by themselves. Even Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady, greatest player to ever play this game. I don't know if you can argue with that. Definitely the greatest quarterback. Could not carry the Patriots last season to a victory in the playoffs against the Titans, who a lot of people that saw that game as a blowout. A lot of people predicted that game as an easy blowout. I think you and I did it on this show, and we just laughed about it. It's like, that's an easy, even Tom Brady couldn't do it, and Dak's not going to be able to do it either. They have to have an offensive line. They have to have a legitimate defense. They have to have these key players in key positions that they're not going to be able to afford because they're paying Zeke so much money, they're paying Amari so much money, and Dak's probably going to get a long-term contract before the end of the offseason here. So I do think there's going to be some regression for Dak. I do not think that he is going to throw for 4,900 yards again, right? I think he's going to be closer to probably like, there's going to be a big regression there, right? Like 4,400 yards maybe.
Yeah.
4,200 yards, something like that. He'll still throw for
probably
more
around
than
the 4,000. Yeah, I have him right around the 4,000 mark, which is a huge regression.
Right. And then 30 touchdowns, that's tough to repeat. He might be closer to like 25-ish touchdowns. I think that he'll repeat his rushing numbers of 277 yards and 3 touchdowns.
He may even increase on those.
Maybe.
He has room for it.
I just think there's going to be some serious regression with Dak, but his currently he's being valued very high. So Justin, you're 100% correct. I'm not targeting Dak Prescott because too many people are targeting him early on, expecting 5,000 passing yards again. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. This one, I think my next one, I'm sure we are not the same on this. I'm going to be shocked if we are, Perry, because I'm huge on this guy who I may be the only person who is.
Okay. So you want to do it on 3? We'll do
let's
3,
do
2, 1, and we'll say it. Okay.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Matt
Brees.
Ryan.
Two very different.
I have Matt Ryan at 7.
Man, yeah, I don't have Matt Ryan on my top 10. I have him probably around the 11 mark.
Oof, you're gonna want to rethink that.
Tell me why.
Matt Ryan is a good quarterback.
I agree.
He is legitimately a good quarterback on a good team with good offensive weapons surrounding him at all sides. There is no reason that Matt Ryan shouldn't.
I'm sorry, are you describing Matt Ryan or Drew Brees right now?
You're not wrong. No, you're not wrong about Drew Brees, honestly, though. But Matt Ryan finished last season with missing a game at 4,466 passing yards. But we're ready to anoint Dak Prescott as like this great passing quarterback when he played all 16 and threw for 4,900. What if Matt Ryan had a 350-yard game and threw for 4,800 yards last season? In that one game that he missed for 350 yards. That's not hard for him to do whatsoever. He had 26 passing touchdowns. He could easily be up at the 30 mark. No problem whatsoever. The rushing thing, okay, Matt Ryan does not rush the ball very much, but either does Drew Brees. So
yeah, I'm not looking for that with either of those guys.
Matt Ryan rushes the ball more than Drew Brees does. There's no doubt about that.
Awkwardly.
Calvin Ridley should only be better this season, which I think is going to take a lot of pressure off Julio Jones, which takes a lot of pressure off Matt Ryan because he's got more comfortable weapons to throw to. I know Austin Hooper left, but I don't care. I don't think Austin Hooper is as good as people think he is.
They brought Hayden Hurst in there, which I think is a great tight end. So I mean, to bolster your argument, I think that he's going to do just fine there to replace him.
Yeah. I get that Todd Gurley isn't Todd Gurley anymore, right? I'm fully aware of that, but I do think that Todd Gurley brings a certain like veteran, experienced, knows what he's doing aspect to that backfield. I think he's only going to help the other running backs. I think it gives the Falcons a very solid option on the goal line.
So you're sold on Ito Smith?
No, I'm not. But I think that Todd Gurley will be a solid option on the goal line that teams know about. Teams know they can't ignore Todd Gurley on the goal line. Todd Gurley catches a lot of touchdowns out of the backfield, which is good for Matt Ryan, right? I know that Todd Gurley isn't going to carry that team whatsoever, but when you get down to like that 15, 10, 5-yard line, Todd Gurley will catch multiple touchdowns out of the backfield this season. He will. So I like Matt Ryan a lot this season. I know that you know that. Right?
Yeah.
I've always liked Matt Ryan. I also think that you can get Matt Ryan for almost nothing right now, as you can Drew Brees. So
that's my exact argument. Drew Brees. Like I literally just did an expert like draft for a league, and I got Matt Ryan. I almost said Matt Ryan. I got Drew Brees with my last pick in that draft, which is crazy to me. And here's why. Basically, all the stuff that you were talking about, also like I was jokingly pointed out, applies to Drew Brees as well. But he's got, everyone loves Michael Thomas. He is the consensus number one wide receiver. Everyone loves Jared Cook at tight end this year. Not elite level, but they like him as a later tight end you could get with great value. He has that value because of Drew Brees. Alvin Kamara, great. He's good at as a pass catching back as well, and he just makes people miss in the open field. He's an amazing running back. Everyone loves him. These are the reasons. And then they brought in Emmanuel Sanders, which you saw how he transformed that 49ers team with those younger receivers and brought them on board. So hopefully he can make some of those other pass catchers there better around him as well. And then Drew Brees, he got injured last year. Everyone's aware of that. And I think this is why he's undervalued so much, because people look at the end of year stats. Once Drew Brees came back from that injury, if you look, I believe he came back week 7 to week 16. He's the QB3. He's the third best quarterback.
I picked him up on waivers.
Yeah. And
after that injury,
he's the third best quarterback. And consensus rankings you look at right now, he's not in the top 12. That is just makes no sense. He has done this year after year after year, shown consistency, and all these other reasons to make you buy Drew Brees. I am taking him everywhere I could get him this year, which is everywhere because he's ranked outside the top 12. Yeah.
No, argument stands. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. If I ended up with Drew Brees, I'd be just fine. I'd be happy.
I'm going to literally be dancing when I get Drew Brees in drafts. Look forward to that.
So number 8, this one was a little tough for me. There were 2 guys that I really wanted here at number 8.
This was tough for me.
So I have Drew Brees at 9. So
nice.
To save time, I have Drew Brees at 9. So that way we don't have to talk about that again. But I do like Drew Brees. I think he's a top 10 quarterback.
If you want, season. I will talk about it again.
But so because I put Drew Brees at 9, one of these guys actually went from 8 to 10. I don't know how that happened, but it happened for me.
It's okay because I had a guy go from off my board to 8. So
okay. So at 8, I actually have Josh Allen.
So do I. That's the guy I had come back onto my board after a further look.
So I've got him a little lower than consensus rankings. I'm a little lower on him than a lot of people are. But that doesn't mean that I dislike Josh Allen. I actually really like Josh Allen this season. I don't know if I'll get him because so many people like him more than I do. But I like Josh Allen a lot.
And
500 rushing yards last season.
honestly, because you have Matt Ryan above him and you could get him later, I'm sure you're going to have Matt Ryan a lot more than Josh Allen.
Yeah, no kidding. 9 rushing touchdowns for Josh Allen last season on top of 29 passing touchdowns. So 20 passing touchdowns. So 29 total touchdowns for the season is great, right? If I told you Tom Brady's going to throw 29 touchdowns next season, people would be really, really excited about that.
And I'd be really excited if you told me Tom Brady is going to rush 9, though.
Yeah. I'd be very concerned. So here's the one thing that I'm really worried about Josh Allen. He has never had a 300-yard passing game in his career.
Which is crazy because he's got such a big arm.
Yeah, it's crazy. His completion percentage is 58.8%, which is a little low. Probably attributes a little to the fact that he hasn't had a 300-yard passing game. I think he'll have a 300-yard passing game this season.
Hot take.
I don't know if his game is going to take that big of a jump forward. I don't know if he's going to leap forward. He's probably just going to take a small step forward, probably be closer to like 3,300 to 3,400 passing yards as opposed to the 3,089 that he had this season, and probably like 22 to 23 passing touchdowns. The one thing that I don't expect really any regression is the rushing, right? He might not get 9 rushing touchdowns, but he'll probably get around 7, and he'll probably be right there around 500 rushing yards again, which is that amazing floor,
yeah.
Right? It's an amazing floor. It's the Tyrod Taylor effect all over again.
Yeah, I was talking to someone who was jokingly calling him the white Cam Newton.
Their games are so similar, though.
Yeah.
Like,
big arm,
so similar.
Not accurate downfield, but with the big arm and likes to rush the ball. Yeah.
So Josh Allen, while I don't think he's an incredible quarterback, I think that he's a very serviceable NFL quarterback and a very, very safe fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like I said, I also have him at 8. So for those reasons, I probably won't. Same reason I was saying you probably won't have him on many of your teams with having Matt Ryan above him. I have Drew Brees above him, who is getting drafted later than him in drafts. So I probably won't have him on my team. But yeah, all those reasons you talked about, the rushing, I love it. And he's my number 8 quarterback as well. He should be top 10 for sure. It's just where I don't think he has a high ceiling.
Right. So I had Drew Brees at 9. I see him and Josh Allen very, very close.
My number 9 is another guy with the super. Well, I'll let you finish first.
I was just gonna say it all comes down to those rushing yards for Josh Allen. Yep. I think they're just gonna edge Drew Brees out just a little bit.
Yes. But my number 9 is a guy with a super low ceiling.
Super low ceiling. Let me think here. Tom Brady?
No.
Oh.
Ryan Tannehill.
Oh, that was my second guess.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we saw a lot of great quarterback play out of Tannehill once he got traded there, but I also think that's probably about where his ceiling is. I don't think there's much room for improvement. He played amazing there. He doesn't get much respect because he's also not in the top 10 for most rankings, and he finished last year as the QB4 once he was traded there from the time he got there to the end of season. So, I mean, that's great. He just continued. Everyone, he didn't get respect last year during the season as he was the QB4, which was crazy to me. Like, people just didn't play him and didn't like him. Probably because they remember him from the Dolphins still. But that hate is continuing into 2020. He's a great late round quarterback that you could get that. Not a lot of flair here. I think he has a low ceiling, but a high floor. So basically, you're getting what you're getting from this guy. And the problem with him here is if they win the games they want to, he doesn't have a big game because they want Derrick Henry to carry this ball and just run it down the other team's throat. and just eat the clock, and he barely throws the ball. So that limits his production. Fortunately for him, he did end up having to throw the ball a bunch last year, and I think that will continue, but it'll be lesser this year. Otherwise, obviously, I'd have him ranked quite a bit higher here. So he finished as the QB4 last year. I have him down at 9 now, so obviously I'm calling a drop off from him, just not as just giving him a little bit more respect than most people.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you who I really, like, for some reason, really wanted to push up to this point, but had no reason to do so. And that I actually really wanted to put Carson Wentz at number 10 for me, as Carson Wentz finishing as a top 10 quarterback.
I honestly did not consider it.
But I just think that Philadelphia hasn't done enough to support Carson Wentz.
Absolutely,
I think Carson Wentz
that's my problem.
Yeah, I think he's good enough to be a top 10 quarterback. I think he's good enough to be a top 5 quarterback, to be completely honest with you.
If they put the pieces he needs there.
Right. And I had to fight myself on this one. It was like, man, Carson Wentz should be good. Carson Wentz should be good. It keeps going through my head that he should be good, but I don't think he's going to crack the top 10. I have Aaron Rodgers as number 10.
What you know what's funny? I had Aaron Rodgers as my number 9 until I put Tannehill there, and then I dropped Aaron Rodgers off of mine.
Yeah, so I think that Aaron Rodgers doesn't get enough respect because he's not like top number 1 anymore. So I think like people started drafting Aaron Rodgers expecting him to be a potential number 1 overall or top 3, right? Which is kind of like the golden, like that's where you want to be, the golden zone, the top 3 fantasy quarterbacks.
And he had for so long.
He had for so long. It was like guaranteed. Aaron Rodgers will be there every year. And he's not anymore. And that's fine. I think that he totally could, right? I think that if he wanted to, he could walk out there and be like, I'm going to throw for 40 touchdowns this season. Also going to throw for like 15 interceptions. We're also going to only win 6 games. He wants to win a Super Bowl. That's clear. And I think that he's playing to win a Super Bowl. I think the Packers are playing to win a Super Bowl, right? They want an established running game. They want an established defense. They don't want their entire platform to sit upon Aaron Rodgers' shoulders, right? That doesn't win championships, doesn't win games. We all know that. I think that the 4,000 passing yards last season, there's definitely going to be some progress there. I think that Aaron Rodgers will probably throw for more like 4,400 passing yards. 26 touchdowns with only 4,000 passing yards is really great. Totally repeatable, right? Especially if he's throwing for more yards. I think 26 touchdowns is great. He only threw for 4 interceptions all season. That's incredible.
Yeah,
there's no reason that he won't do that again.
I think that he'll probably throw a couple more interceptions just because how great that number is. So like he might throw a couple more, but yeah. I mean that's
5.
that's not a big hindrance to fantasy points. So
yeah, the thing that I think is going to actually increase is the rushing touchdowns. He only had 1 rushing touchdown last season. I think he'll probably be closer to like 3 this season. Aaron Rodgers for me is he's an incredibly safe pick. I want people to keep hating on Aaron Rodgers because that means I can get him later and later and later, like maybe even later than like Matt Ryan, right? As we get closer to the draft, that could definitely happen. Now, if somebody like Odell Beckham lands in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers is going to shoot up draft boards, and he will not be affordable whatsoever.
I don't think you'll get him after Matt Ryan, but he is definitely undervalued, and that is my key thing is that I think why I don't have him at my 10 or higher is because I want them to do something to bring him a number 2 wide receiver there, or I mean it's definitely possible Alan Lazard takes a step forward this year too. He did towards the end of the year he was promising, so maybe he does. The other guys did not look promising there, so hopefully they either bring someone in or Lazard can make that leap.
I have just a few honorable mentions. I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail about them, but guys that could crack the top 10 this season.
Let me do my number 10 first.
I thought you did.
No. My number 10,
so
similar to yours in narrative, is Tom Brady, because I don't think Tom Brady has completely lost it. Like,
Not even close.
I think he still has a lot left in him, and he was pleading for New England to give him offensive weapons last year, and they just wouldn't do it. They wouldn't bring in any offensive weapons. That's why he left. That's why he went to this team that has all these offensive weapons, and he can use them. Like,
Dude, what if Tom Brady finishes as the number 1 overall fantasy quarterback?
It's completely possible. I'm not predicting that in any way, but it is in the realm of possibility, which means his ceiling is super high, which is why I cannot leave him off of my list. His floor probably super low. He could get injured and just be out for the season because he is very old.
Yeah, but he could have got. I don't think the injury risk is all that.
No,
I think
we've never seen it with him. So
is the same as like Aaron. No, I think Aaron Rodgers is even more injury risk.
Yeah, several players on this list are.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just saying that could happen. I think his floor is probably lower than a lot of these other quarterbacks on the list. But his ceiling is so high, I have to include him. So there's a big, window for him to finish in. And Tom Brady's a great NFL quarterback with all these, probably the best wide receiver core in the NFL right now. And so it's, I mean, hard not to put him in my top 10 here. He had to make it in here. So if these other guys were to get drafted, and I'm coming towards the end of my draft and Tom Brady's still there, I have no problem taking Tom Brady at the end of the draft. And that's like, me and Perry are huge on taking quarterbacks late, because one of these guys will be one of these guys in our back 3 will probably finish as a top 3 quarterback.
I took Matt Ryan late last season and he was just fine, right? Totally just fine. And then I was able to pick up Drew Brees the week before he came back on waivers, and then I was solid the rest of the season. Justin can attest, right? I didn't win the championship, but I lost it by 3 points. But I had the best team.
Yeah. And
all season.
It was not due to the fact that you were hurting at the quarterback position.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, actually. Like, I'm not trying to boast, but my team was incredible all season. Yeah. And I didn't put any value into quarterback at all. It's not necessary. Not in a redraft league, not in a single quarterback league. It's just not necessary.
I picked up Ryan Tannehill off waivers in that league.
Exactly. And you did just fine. Yeah. So I have a few honorable mentions here. Not going into a ton of detail, but guys that could totally crack the top 10, and I wouldn't be surprised. Matthew Stafford. I think that he's coming off a big injury, but all reports are that he's healthy. Everything's fine. He's fully recovered. He's passing physicals. Last season, he only played through week 9. He had 2,500 passing yards, 19 touchdowns through week 9. So really good numbers out of Matthew Stafford to start the season. If he continued that, he would have been like probably top 5 in 2019. So, excuse me, Matthew Stafford. Did I say Matt Ryan again?
I'm not sure. I heard Stafford, but
good.
Could be just because I knew who you were talking about.
I had Tom Brady on that list for all the reasons that Justin said. I have Baker Mayfield on that list because I'm not ready just to sail Baker Mayfield out in a Viking funeral. But I'm not willing to risk it with him yet. But if he were a top 10 quarterback, it'd be like, there he is. Now he's doing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, that's and he may be a guy like we talked about how we both grabbed a quarterback mid-season that took us the rest of the way. He may be that guy for you. You could draft one of these guys, and then let's say they're not panning out halfway through the season.
Just
and
pluck Baker Mayfield up off the waivers. Exactly. This one, I feel like Justin doesn't agree with me on this one all that much, but it's Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones has shown that he has a potential to be very, very good. I don't think that he's shown that he is yet, but I think that he has the potential.
So
we talk about teams with really good wide receiver cores. The Giants have 4 number 2 wide receivers. I understand that they don't have an incredible number 1 receiver, but they have a lot of good wide receivers. Daniel Jones could be a boom bust type quarterback where he's getting 4 touchdowns multiple times, or 5 touchdowns even one game. And Daniel Jones could just creep into the top 10 because of that. And I think that he will be a very good stream option when it comes to matchups.
So I don't agree with you, and I'm sure you expected that. Because I like several of the wide receivers there, but so many of those players have had such bad health concerns, from tight end to their wide receiver core, that there hasn't been a lot of just consistency. And Daniel, they haven't done enough for me around Daniel Jones. It's not that I don't think he can do it. It's that I don't think the team has built around him enough, and I don't trust their coaching staff. I don't agree with the coaches they brought in there. So just the whole situation there around Daniel Jones, I'm not a fan of. So that's why. It's not that I think Daniel Jones shouldn't be in the NFL or a horrible quarterback. I just don't think the team is built around him enough for me to be comfortable with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not putting him in my top 10. I just think that he could if 2021 rolls around and we're doing this exact same episode and it turns out that Daniel Jones was the number 10 fantasy quarterback in 2020, I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. I see why.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
I think it's basically any starting quarterback may be able to crack that top 10. I just don't think that he may be able to take a leap up to the top 5 like some of these other guys have the opportunity to.
I don't know if any starting quarterback could break the top 10. I don't think Jimmy G is going to break the top 10. I don't think Phillip Rivers is going to break the top 10. I don't think Sam Darnold's going to break the top 10.
I think Phillip Rivers could.
Yeah, I guess. If I had to put money down, Phillip Rivers or Daniel Jones to break the top 10, one of them will. I would say Daniel Jones.
I'm taking Phillip Rivers in that.
Okay. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is going to break the top 10. Gardner Minshew is a real big stretch to break the top 10 to me. It just,
But see, that's where I have Daniel Jones personally, is in the Gardner Minshew area. Jimmy G, I completely agree with you on. That's not happening.
We'll have to agree to disagree then.
Absolutely.
I think Daniel Jones, a guy that had 4 or more touchdowns 3 times last season, right? We're not talking is he good or is the team good? It's man, he could just blow up for 4 straight weeks.
No, so my issue here is that my biggest issue is the change in the coaching staff that I don't like. So I don't expect to see the same things I saw last year on that team. And then also I know we talk a lot about quarterbacks who flop, and the common excuse, or I'm going to say excuse given for these quarterbacks is well, he's had 5 different offensive coordinators in the last 6 years. He's had this coaching change and this, which is a valid reason for him not to produce. But at the end of the day, he didn't produce. And these are my problems with Baker Mayfield, why he's not in my top 10. And Daniel Jones, they're newer quarterbacks who have had a bunch of coaching changes, which is not good for the progression of a quarterback, as we've seen with multiple quarterbacks.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, go off on a tangent there. But no,
that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, no, I think like you said though, we see these quarterbacks pop up here. It's definitely possible. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but that's the reasoning why I don't have them up here. Well, thank you guys for.
Again, I don't have Daniel Jones in my top 10.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you guys catch us next week. I'm sure the news no one cares about. We'll cover this NFL draft that they did this weekend.
Yeah, we'll talk about that for sure. That'll be fun.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.